Hi everyone, Thursday night, 9 o'clock, time for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. Well, good to be back with you. We've had a thrilling international cup few weeks of rugby, and you might think, well, a bit of a letdown this week, but not the case at all. We've got the United Rugby Championships and the Gallagher Premiership to talk about, and I know that some of the boys are absolutely champing at the bit to get stuck into it from a betting perspective. I must, on a personal note, been a good couple of weeks. I hit a few best bets in the newsletter and also hit a few accumulators, so absolutely fired up and ready to go. But let's start off by introducing you to the panel. A couple of guys haven't been on the show for a while, and we'll start off top right of my screen here. It's Dave. Dave, good to have you back on the show.
Brent, thank you so much for inviting me back. It's been a while, but it's always a pleasure to come on and talk to yourself and Brendan about rugby, and hopefully we can pick out a few winners this weekend.
Excellent. We're looking forward to it. What's the weather like out your way? You in Dublin, of course, eh?
Well, mate, the radiator's on right behind me. It's probably about 3 degrees outside, and that's actually warm. Like we've been lucky. The weather has been warm up until this week, and on Wednesday it got a bit colder. But it's dry, so I suppose beggars can't be choosers.
Right, and well, I'll tell you, we'll touch on Irish rugby in a little while as well, because I can tell you a few people from Ireland have been having a bit of a go at the Oracle in some of the comments on below some of the YouTube shows, and no sign of Oracle tonight. The conductor, good to have you on the show, mate. You've taken a little bit of a break. I know you've been easing off on the punting, but you've been eyeing out the United Rugby Championship, and you can't wait to get back into it.
Yeah, Brent, I just want to say thanks very much. You've stitched me up properly here. I haven't been on the show for quite a while. Then the other guest you bring on the show looks like Pierce Brosnan with an Irish accent. So I've lost my one female fan that I had was clinging on by fingernails as switched sides. So thanks very much for that.
Sorry, mate. Who was that one female fan?
Well, it's no longer important. She's now left, so it's a good riddance to her. But
mate, we still love you.
Thanks, Brenty. Lovely to be back. Like you said, I took a bit of a break about 4 or 5 weeks ago. I had 1 or 2 bad weekends. Was making some poor decisions. Took a full punting break for 1 or 2 weekends, and slowly ease myself back in with a couple of small bets and things like that. And, sometimes that's essential just to give yourself a bit of a break. Was making some rash decisions and some silly bets and things like that, and falling into silly traps. But no, back and ready to fire. And hopefully we can. It's not easy games this weekend, but hopefully we can sift through the games and find some good value.
Excellent. Yeah, I see there's been quite a bit of betting movement already as well. But gents, we'll get straight into it. We'll talk about the United Rugby Championship. Of course, the big thing for South African fans is that it's here in South Africa now. We've got 4 games, and there's been, I think, a lot of people like me have just been waiting for these games. I don't make it personal, let's show the overseas guys. But I think from a betting point of view, we're hoping for some value. So let's get stuck straight into the games. And conductor, I'm going to start with you. This game does not involve South African sides. It takes place on Friday night, I would imagine, because we've got a points line here. And we've got Connacht -6.5 against the Ospreys and a points line of 37.5, which tells me that it's typical Connacht weather.
Brent, I actually checked the weather in Galway tomorrow night. It doesn't look that bad. It looks like it might be a bit windy, but not that much heavy rain. This is a very tough game. I mean, I did look at the Connacht side. I see the South African lighty, Shane Bolton, the guy from the University of Free State that played Varsity Cup rugby. He's debuting for Connacht. They've made a couple of changes at fullback. Wooten is at wing, is making his first starts instead of Porch. I think 1 or 2 guys in the forwards. It's not exactly the same side that absolutely blasted Ulster. Connacht is so incredibly unpredictable. They go and smash the Bulls and then lose to the Dragons the next week, and then go and smash a very, very good Ulster side on a neutral venue. So difficult to know which Connacht team are going to pitch up. I did see this Dragons side. It's a very similar side that beat a very good Munster side in the last game of the URC. Even though they got 37-year-old Stephen Myler starting at 10 instead of Anscombe. I'm gonna edge a little bit towards Ospreys. They've won 4 out of 5 and 4 good wins. I think only one was against Benetton. They've had some good games there. Look, Galway, the sports ground is a tough place to play. It's a bit you can. I think you can feel it. It's a bit of a small ground, and it's not an easy place to play. But for me, I'm just going to edge a little bit towards the plus. I've been toing and froing on the minus, the plus. Yeah, I just it's not a game I've been massive involved in. Like I said, I've been super impressed with Ospreys, even though they're missing guys like Lydiot, Dan Tuperik, George North, Elwyn Jones. I think Francis, the Welsh prop. I think they still should be able to bother Connacht tomorrow night. So I'll take the Ospreys plus.
But more confident picks elsewhere on the weekend for you. I can hear that. Conductor, just before we bring Dave in on this game, just welcome to the boys on the live chat. Did I say something about Chris Rowe identifying as a female? That's at the Crow Tips on Twitter. And Chris, we'll definitely have you back on the show again soon as well. And then to Mark, Sharkbrain, Peter Paul, all of the boys joining us. Good to have you on the show. Dave, let's get into you. Your first pick back. Anything for us on this Connacht game?
First game back, and I'm going to disagree with the conductor. Both myself and Brendan have had many chats before, and what's the old phrase? Once bitten, twice shy of back Connacht. And I know Brendan has it before, and they've just let us down. They're such an inconsistent side, but that victory against Ulster last time out in Lansdowne Road was very impressive. Like, they blew them away. You look at Andy Friend, I think he's now starting to get stability and hopefully a bit of consistency into the sports ground. The fact that Dalton Papali'i or Abraham Papali'i is out, I think is a good thing for Connacht, because he's like a red card machine. He's playing for Samoa against the Barbarians. When Pat Lam had his record season with Connacht, he just developed that like really, really strong band of brothers. And I think that Andy Friend has done that. He's been very shrewd with his signings. Like Brendan mentioned, the young South African centre, and Ben O'Donnell, the winger. He got his background in the Australian 7 scene. He's picked out some real bargains. I think Boyle at number 8, he's a talisman for them. But like I'm sort of not sure myself now. I think about it. I backed the Ospreys a couple of weeks ago to win the Welsh Conference. I thought it was a ridiculously embarrassing price. They were 8-1 to win the Welsh Conference a couple of weeks ago. So I took a bit of that. So if I was going to have a bet on the individual game, I'd probably go on points overs. The weather looks pretty good in Galway tomorrow. At a push, I'd take the minus. But I think Connacht are starting to play a little bit better, and they're such an attacking team to watch. And Jack Hardy just signed a new deal, which will give them great confidence. So it'll be an interesting game to start the weekend.
Right, I've seen a couple of the boys. The sentiment is definitely towards Connacht on the handicap there in the live chat. Dave, I'm going to stay with you, the first of the South African teams in action. Stormers against Zebra. Now, I handicapped the games, and I did make the point in the Good for the Game forum that, I don't even know which internationals are playing, which aren't. But surprisingly, I got 3 of the games pretty close. But I got this game horribly wrong. And I'm going to say it up front, I was wrong. The bookmakers were right, because I went something like Stormers minus 12.5. But I see this handicap. It might have opened up a bit lower than 23.5, Dave, but it's ballooned out to 23.5. And it's Stormers, I suppose, up against the Zebra side that by all accounts aren't going to be at full strength. And I think they're 0 from 5. They've got 1 bonus point out of all their 5 games, and that was a losing bonus point against the Lions, or a 4-try bonus point against the Lions.
Yeah, that was the first game of the season. I think the Lions were like 26-0 up at halftime, and everyone was. I think a lot of people were actually backing Zebra in that opening game. They managed to come back and, as you say, get a bonus point, but they've sent a pretty weak team down. And if you look at social media, they seem to be spending more time enjoying themselves than actually training for a rugby match. I believe they only arrived in South Africa in Wednesday or Tuesday. Maybe Brendan will correct me if I'm wrong there. The only concern I would have is one of my least favorite referees, Ben Shithouse or Whitehouse, is on the whistle. So he can come out with some pretty strange decisions. But if you look at it, the Stormers, they have Roos playing fantastic rugby in the European swing. They got a win. They're on the up from what I saw from the last Currie Cup campaign. They look to be going well. And the player like that the fullback, Warren Gallant, I think I've pronounced it correctly. He had a fantastic European swing, scored some incredible tries. This game will be played at altitude, and I really think that they're going to wipe them out. I think I'd be on the -21. I'm already on it in a treble.
But it won't be at altitude, will it, though, Brendan?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You remind me of, Dave, a cricketer of ours called Jacques Callis. He was once jogging on the beachfront, and someone asked him why he was breathing so heavily, and he said it was the altitude. Something along those lines. I can't remember the full story. But Conductor, what do you think here? There has been quite a bit of bucks for the Stormers. I just want to quickly look at a couple of other bookmakers, but 23.5 seems about what we're getting here at the moment.
Yeah, Brent, so I've actually been lining up this game for about 4 weeks. So I'm so glad this day has come, because I sort of seen that when they announced that the teams would have to travel to South Africa. Oh, I've been chopping at the bits, waiting for this game. Like Denzel Washington said in training day, the shit is chess, it's not checkers. So I've been waiting to make my move. I'm so happy they priced this up. And Brent, there's 3 things I love in life. I love in this world. 1 is Kylie Minogue. 2 is the dimples above a girl's buttocks, and 3 is opposing zebra. So,
in that order.
So I love opposing zebra. I've been following this quite closely. As Dave says, zebra only left Palma on a Tuesday. It was about a 14-hour flight via Doha to Cape Town. I saw the one guy did do an Instagram of the field yesterday. So I think they only made it back. Only made it onto the field yesterday. So they probably would have had a rough session. And then tomorrow they're going to have a captain's run.
Captain's walk.
Yeah, I just don't know how seriously they're taking it, to be quite honest. I mean, I've been monitoring the social media. They haven't been focusing on this game at all in terms of actually promoting on their Twitter sites, Instagram. They're actually more focused on their forthcoming games back in Europe. And we must also look at, I think the one thing we must look at with perspective with these games is that in 2 weeks' time, we've got Heineken Cup games coming up and Challenge Cup as well. So, we need to understand, how seriously are these guys taking it. It just doesn't feel like Zebra are taking it too seriously. They've left about, I think, 7 or 8 guys at home. Carlo Kana, sorry, I can't remember. It's offhand, but sort of key guys they've left back in Italy. So it is a mix of a second/third choice side. I've got a feeling these guys will be more interested in the Cape Town Cafe Caprice wildlife. I think they're more interested in what shirts they're going to wear for Saturday night rather than Saturday afternoon. So, yeah, as Dave says, Warwick Alliance has been fantastic for Stormers. Marvin Ori is back. Salman Marat and Damien Willemse. So it really, this could be by 40 for Stormers.
I was going to say, it's screaming minus to me, and it's screaming Stormers overs perhaps. I mean, obviously the quote's going to be high.
I'm massive on the minus 20.5. Like I said, I've been lining this up for weeks. When it came out at 19.5, I took some of that. I took 20.5. I took 21.5. Edinburgh, which was a very pitch patch mix mash, Edinburgh side beat them in Palma by 17 points against a first string Zebra side. Andre Smith had his biting ban overturned, so he might be featuring. The Stormers guys have had a break. The Stormers guys have only got 2 weeks of rugby, then it's a break again. So I think it's going to be full intensity. My only concern is there's 2 concerns, but I'm not going to let it detract from my positivity around the bet. Is like Dave says, Ben Whitehouse is a concern. Prepare yourself on some howlers. Then his right hand man, Batman shithouse Robin, aka the TMO Marius Jonker, who just tries to find things to try and actually not give tries. I just wish the 2 of them, maybe they must get a hotel visit by one of the Cape Town gangs just to remember where they are, just to make sure they're not going to pull off any decisions. And there might be a bit of bad weather in Cape Town, but from what I've seen, it's a little bit of wind, a little bit of rain, nothing too hectic.
Right, well, we're going to move on because we do have quite a lot of games to get through tonight, but I'm also strong on the minus there. I do like the Stormers there, and I'm going to be looking at Stormers overs on that one. Dave, I haven't gone to you on the Stormers game yet, had I?
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
did we started with you? Thank goodness. Right, let's move on to Benetton up against Glasgow. Conductor, Benetton plus 1.5, so virtually a choice game here.
Brent, Benetton have been good at home, I think they've only lost 1 out of the last 7 or 8 games, and it's against some fairly good opposition. This is, I think, it's all dependent on who, sort of team news. If Glasgow has a sort of mixed match side again, I might just look at the Benetton plus. But without team news, I think the bet that I'm going to push forward is maybe the overs. Both Benetton and Glasgow like to play good, positive rugby, in my opinion. Zebra is the negative Italian side. I like Benetton. They do actually play positive rugby. They might have a Rainu Smith at 10, who will probably, who likes a little chips over the top, etc. Monty Ioane, he might be back from international duty, etc. But obviously, the lynch or the key there is Marius Hubert as referee. 1 o'clock kickoff in Treviso. The weather will be very chilly. It'll be cool but clear. So I think both teams will be used to that sort of conditions. And obviously 1 o'clock kickoff, 3 o'clock our time, 1 o'clock their time. I like the overs. If we can maybe get a 47, 48.5, that'll be something that'll attract my attention. Marius hasn't been the old Marius where he just gives everything. He's toned it down quite a bit in his URC performances. But I think he's still quite a positive ref, and he does like awarding penalties.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'll be looking at overs. Dave, how have you assessed this game?
First of all, Brent, I must say it's great to see Oracle is on the live chat. I was chatting to Andy Farrell the other day, and he said to say thank you to him. That all he did was watch the show back, and he just showed it to the players when he said that New Zealand were going to win by 20. So Oracle, like from everyone in Ireland, I'd like to thank you very much for the easy motivation.
One thing I know about Oracle, he's thick-skinned, he can handle it. But yeah, good to have you on the chat there, Oracle.
I know that.
And of course, he's going for all the SA teams this week.
And he says that no European team is going to win there in South Africa this season. Okay, that's another one. I'm sure Leinster would have something to say about that anyway. On to this game, very hard to tell with, as Brendan was saying, without the team news. The last game that Benetton played, I think it was against Scarlets away, and it was a really good game, very open. They play a nice brand of rugby, and Glasgow will come to play as well. My initial thoughts were Glasgow points. Benetton have quite a small squad, so they tend to have like a London Irish, not many turnovers of players. They play the same 22 each week, so it should be a good game. My thoughts are probably going to stick on the Glasgow points. I think Glasgow, that's dependent on the Glasgow lineup. If they go with their Scottish internationals, I'll be taking the Scottish team over an Italian team. I think Benetton had their swan song when they beat the Bulls last season in that Mickey Mouse Cup.
Yeah, interesting. I often have that choice to make. Do I go total points or do I pick one team? On the one hand, I do like to go for a team often because then you don't actually give a damn what the other team do. You just focus on that. Yeah. So I'll definitely be looking at overs here as well. But I think I'm actually looking at probably Conductor. As you said, we can get a 46, 47 there, somewhere around there, perhaps a total overs. Dave, I'll stay with you. We go on to the next game involving the South African side. It's the Sharks, -8.5 against the Scarlets. Now, all I think about when I think of the Scarlets is the Munster sort of second-string team rocking up and giving them a thumping. And then, of course, they took a hammering at the hands of Leinster as well, a result that wouldn't have surprised the Oracle. But what have we got here? Sharks -8.5.
I'd even go back and say the problem started with the Scarlets last season when they played the Heineken Cup match against Sale, and they were beyond embarrassing. I think Sale could have put 60 points on them, and that was at Parky Scarlets. It was a home game. The Scarlets are not the team that they were a couple of years ago when they were challenging for the Heineken Cup and when they won the Pro 14 title. They're going down to South Africa. I don't care if they've brought their Welsh internationals. I'm really going to stick with the South African teams in this. Will South Africa bring back or will the South African internationals be playing for the Sharks, Brendan? No, Khaleesi?
Not, but the guys they released from the squad, like Fassi, will play. Hey, Brendan.
Yeah. And then you got Boudelese, Thomas Toy. Like it's a quality pack. You got Bosch taking the kicks. He can kick them over from 60 easy. I really fancy the South African. I think any single digit minus, I'd be on the minus here. It's got out to 10 points in some places here, but I really like the Sharks this weekend. I think they're going to welcome the Scarlets to South Africa.
Yeah, what do you think, Brendan? I see a bit of head nodding there.
Nodding and or the other way, it's just going like that. It's like
hopefully not nodding off after a few points.
Yeah, I don't know. No. I don't know. I'll be honest. I've struggled with this game quite a bit. The reason being is the Sharks can often struggle to put away a big minus in Durban. I've tried to assess the weather. It keeps giving me conflicting reports. It does seem that it'll be quite windy in Durban, a bit cooler, but yet some of the reports say the humidity will still be high. So I'll try and assess the conditions closer to kickoff. If the humidity is going to be higher, I'd be hesitant to back a minus or overs. I can see it being quite mistake-ridden. Also remember, Sharks haven't played rugby for a bit. There might be a bit of rust. They had a bit of a run around against the Cheetahs last week, where the defense wasn't amazing. So I need to assess conditions beforehand. But I agree with Dave. I do like the minus. Generally, my rule of thumb with Durban is if it's poor weather, I'll back the minus and the overs. If it's good weather, I'll actually back the unders. It's weird how it works like that. Often when it's actually really hot, the ball gets quite sticky and the humidity comes into play. Hopefully it is nice and cool. Hopefully it is that sort of offshore breeze that'll just blow that humidity away. Then I will back the minus there. I do agree with Dave. I've not been impressed with Scarlets at all. Even though I think guys like Gareth Davies, I think Liam Williams is on tour. I think all but one of their Welsh internationals, only Ken Owens remained in Wales. So it's been pretty poor weather in Durban from what I can gather on their Instagram, etc. I'd probably be leaning, if going to my head, I'd lean on the minus there. As Dave says, probably Fussy should be back at fullback, and Corsi should be back at wing. I'm sure Bosch will be on the bench. I imagine Butcher Chamberlain will be starting at 10. But I saw on the Instagram Khaleesi, Jaden Hendricks, and I think Noche are in Geneva at the moment as part of some Sharks thing. I don't know, some function we've got to Geneva. There's some sports academy there that we've opened now together with our head of the Sharks rugby. So I think they're all there at the moment with Khaleesi. I don't think Oxenchair will play, and I don't think Bongi will play, considering I don't think he's played one game for the Sharks yet. So, but nevertheless, I do think we'll have a strong side. Andre Piardi, the Italian ref, I do like him. He does ref quite consistently. So to me, he's neither an overs or an unders. But for me, I'd be leaning minus 8.5. I think the Sharks will be prepping for this game, and I think they should put it. And I agree with what Dave says. I think the Scarlets are a poor side, and I think that that Munster game, it just showed everything. Although Scarlets were missing a few players in that game, they're not the team of old.
No.
Yeah, I must say Sharks on the minus for me. Sorry, Dave.
Well, one thing I would say at this block of games, each South African team, apart from they all get a win in the first block of games in the URC, but they're now at home. They need to make points if they want to make the top 8. This is their block. So I'd actually be saying the South African teams are going to be going for bonus points. They need to actually make up for lost ground now.
Agree, and I'm actually with Oracle on this one. I was looking at all of these games. I actually found myself leaning towards the South African teams on the handicap in each of the games, and I'll probably be looking at points plays as well. I think they got work to do. And if I look at the Sharks game, we kind of know what team the Sharks are going to put out. I don't think there's going to be a lot of surprises there. Scarlets maybe might surprise us, but I can only see this handicap moving one way. I can only see if you can get minus 8.5 Sharks now. It might start 8.5. It might start 10.5. It might start 12.5. I don't think it's going to come in the other way. I can't see much on the team news front doing that. So I think if you can take the Sharks minus 8.5 now, I think you're going to be sitting in a decent position from a sort of a line point of view come kick off there. But let's move on to the next game, and we'll stick with you here, conductor. Dragons up against Edinburgh, plus 2.5 the Dragons.
Brent, very similar to that Benetton versus Glasgow game. It's all going to be dependent upon the Edinburgh team they're going to put out. Dragons, I think the last game they succumbed to the Stormers at home. Everyone rates Dragons as a very nuggety team at home, but the last couple of games have not reflected that. Look, they've got some really good players. I think Jonah Holmes, Ross Moriarty, a couple of these guys. Sam Davies is not a bad goal kicker. So that it's really, they do put their hearts out on the pitch, but it's all going to be dependent on what sort of team Edinburgh are going to put out, and if Edinburgh are going to save some gunpowder for the European competitions, which is in Pro 14. Obviously, the cup competitions is what I mean. So it's all dependent upon what sort of team Edinburgh are going to put out. But at this point in time, I think I took Edinburgh 0.8 or 8 to 10 on the board, and I'm happy with that bet. Dragons have definitely improved from what they were, a while ago. Let's call it like that. But Dragons are going to be missing a couple of their players. I think I watched their coach today, and he did say, look, I think some of the internationals he won't be bringing back, etc. Some of the guys are injured and hurting from those internationals, so it could be a bit more on the international flavour of Edinburgh versus Dragons, who are missing their good guys. But I did see guys like Jamie Roberts. He was in training, but for me, Edinburgh on the board here.
Right, Dave, what are your thoughts on this one? Is this one of the games you're getting stuck into?
No, this is one of the ones I'll stick to the sideline. I think it's a good time for me to say I did refer in the show before to the Dragons being a pub team, so I apologise for that. They have improved. Dean Ryan has got them a bit more nuggety, and the back row, I've been impressed with Keddy, with Fry, Moriarty, as Brendan said. They have two good outside backs, two ex-Bristol players in Rodri Williams at scrum half and Jordan Williams at full back, who's quite pacey. They have improved that 4G pitch. If the weather is good, it could be a good open game. One bet, which obviously depending on team news, which I like, is I love the Edinburgh hooker, Dave Cherry. So him for a try anytime, if you get a bit of value, might be one to look at. But it's not a game that I'm gonna. If I'm working on Saturday and I miss it, then so be it.
But the next game, Dave, is going to catch the eye. Surely, Bulls against Munster. I think there was some early -6.5 Bulls, perhaps 7.5. I'm going to pop onto. I take this off player bets because they got such a nice layout for me to get all the betting. Let me quickly have a look at Sunbet here. We're also 9.5. What do you think of this one, Dave? I mean, the Bulls seem to be firming in the betting.
I'd say Jake White has had these guys for the last couple of weeks prepping them for this game. Their initial baptism to the competition didn't go too well when they came up short against Leinster and showed them the gap between the two teams. But no, I think now they'd be licking their lips and ready to go for this. If they're ever going to beat Munster, now's a good time. Munster don't have a full-strength team. They've sent down players who are in the extended Ireland squad like Simon Zebo and Gavin Coombs, but it's not a full strength Munster team. And the Bulls, will have Marcel Garcia will be able to give them a good bit of knowledge into the Munster team, obviously, and the Munster ethos, because obviously he played a couple of seasons in Ulster. I'm strong on the minus here. Obviously, the game's at altitude, and I'd see Munster said they were training for the altitude. I don't know what they were doing, running around with a hairdryer beside their heads going, yeah, I'm ready for the heat. Sorry,
Dave, I can't resist. Maybe they were in Cape Town training with the Stormers.
my geography was showing up there, Brenty. No, I really, it's like I said to the guys earlier in the week, you can say you're ready for the altitude. I'm ready to fight Tyson Fury till he hits me in the face.
Yeah, exactly. You're quite right. Okay. We got Bulls. I must say, I'm very much in your camp as well. I like the Bulls. Once again, as much as I like the handicaps, I'll probably be looking to the points markets here, perhaps even Bulls tries and even total points as well. I can well see the Bulls letting in a few tries. What do you think here, conductor?
Yeah, Brent. I agree with exactly what Dave says. Old Tyson always used to say, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face, and that's exactly what Munster are going to do. Yeah, they're thinking, well, we're gonna try and adjust for the altitude. And Johan van Kraan would have been able to tell them, guys, he's from Uffies, he grew up around there. He's coming back home, but it's all well and good to tell. You can show pictures and you can have pop-up books, etc. until you get there, you're not going to know exactly what it feels like. There is a little plaque as you run through the Bulls tunnel onto the field, which indicates the altitude. So you know exactly how high you are, and you know it's going to affect you. I'm happy as a fat kid at Christmas with this game, because I think the SA teams took so much flack in the first couple of games for being poor, but these are completely different conditions. Huge at altitude. Look, I mean, and Brent, you'll know, being in Joburg, the weather hasn't been fantastic the last couple of days. It's been quite cool. It's raining outside as we speak, so I don't think it'll be that really startling heat. I would have loved 31, 32 degrees around 5 o'clock, where you're sort of sweating in your car with the aircon on. But it's not going to be as hot as that. It's probably going to be in around 26 degrees. And I think the kickoff is at 7 o'clock, 7:30. So it will be cooler.
Yeah.
I watched a couple of the guys on the press conferences from Munster today. They said, look, they had to run around, and you could just see that the lungs were burning just from that little run around. So I do like. I love that -9.5. I agree with what Dave says. This is a really, really, really big Bulls pack, and you got massive flyers. Curtly Orense, I love him. Really, really good players like Onal Hendricks. It's tough for me to see. I think the Bulls might escalate the pace here, try and run the Munster off their legs. If you don't like the -9.5, my suggestion would be to look at maybe a second half handicap when the lungs are absolutely burning and the legs are gone. And that's where Munster might keep it tight for the first 50, but yeah, I hope they're in the lead before that, because their last 30 minutes is going to be a very, very tough one for them. So if you don't like the -9.5, I like -9.5 there. I think it's going to be a good game for the Bulls. They're going to be champing at the bit. If you don't like it, I like the second half minus.
Right, I must say I do like the Bulls there. I'm pretty strong. Sorry, Dave.
There was a game a couple of seasons ago when the Cheetahs were in the old competition. It could have been Ulster they were playing, or Connacht, I can't remember exactly. But I think it was like a single-digit spread, and the Cheetahs blew them out by 50 points or 40 points. It was just a massacre. I think it's a game changer. Munster can train all they want in altitude chambers, but it's a very young squad they've brought. Being Irish, I'd like to see them keep it close, but I think we need to be realistic on this one. And you look at Stephen Larkham just announced he's going back to take over as head coach of the Brumbies next season. He was brought into Munster to develop this new expansive style. It hasn't really worked out. There's a lot of question marks over here about Brent Graham and giving him another contract and what he's actually done to Munster and the drought for trophies. I think it's going to be they'll improve as the South African swing goes on, but this is going to be a tough week for them.
Well, we know what Henrik Swart will be saying about the coach. He's right up there, I think, in Henrik's opinion, with Forster, if I'm not mistaken, a conductor. So we fortunate. We definitely be getting his thoughts on that. I'm sure he'll be on the Bulls this weekend. Leinster -13.5 conductor against Ulster.
Brent, I'm not going to get you involved in this game. I'd probably take Ulster on the plus. Leinster have so much. Obviously they had a lot of guys committed to the Irish squad. I'm not exactly sure who would be coming back, etc. But I do like Ulster. I think they're very well coached. It is an Irish derby. I think they'll want to make amends for that game against Connacht. For me, I'd probably take the plus there. But Leinster, like I said, have got so much quality and so much depth amongst their ranks. It's difficult to go against them. I probably won't be taking a punt on this. It's just there's too many other games I'd rather get involved in. But if I had to touch this, probably an Ulster plus.
Dave, you on this one? I must say, I love Leinster games, and I know you obviously a Leinster fan, but for me, they're the sort of team I just can't resist getting involved in their games, and they've certainly run into some good form. I haven't really been, I didn't follow the results right after the South African teams left, but they were in some pretty good nick generally.
Yeah. I'm a bit biased on this one because obviously I am a Leinster fan. On Saturday night. Weather forecast isn't too bad. They're forecasting it just be cold but dry. The Leinster team will be announced tomorrow, but it's, from what I'm hearing, it's quite a strong team. One notable addition, which I find hard to believe, is apparently Tyg Furlong. He signed a new deal with the RFU today. He has announced that he's staying at Leinster, but they have, from what I'm hearing, he's going to play tomorrow night, on Saturday night, which is a bit of a strange one considering he had so many minutes built up. So I don't believe that. But Leinster have a very strong side picked. Robbie Henshaw is going to be playing on Saturday. Larmer's back. Ross Byrne is going to be at 10. You got McGrath, who obviously, in some games was the Leinster first choice ahead of Jemison Gibson Park, but now Jemison Gibson Park is the number one for Ireland. I think I've counted there's 11 Irish internationals starting for Leinster on Saturday night. So that's pretty good considering like they'll have so many players rested. Saying that, Ulster must be hurting, as Brendan said. Like they got pretty much whipped by Connacht in Lansdowne Road in the last game. So I'm expecting a response. The last fixture they had and the last couple of fixtures, in fact, have been quite tight. So if on my bet, I'm going to have a small bet with a beer in my hand watching the stadium. It's going to be Leinster 1-12 margin. If you want to have a little sneaky beer money bet, I'd probably back Scott Penny to score a try. He's starting an open side, and he seems to score every single game. So that's not a bad shout.
Okay, interesting. And we look forward to a picture of the ground for the weather on the day, of course, as well there, Dave. Brings us on to the last game, and I'll stick with you to see it through. Well, the last game of the URC at any rate. We've had a handicap movement here. We had Lions. I think they opened up about -2.5 against Cardiff. I see now they've gone out to -5.5. You can still get -4.5. And Dave, is the South African side going to beat another handicap here?
Yeah, it is. This was the minute this came out, it just shone out off the page. It was an epiphany. I was like, I couldn't believe they had it at a 2-point game. Cardiff are sending down a pretty inexperienced squad. I think the Lions, again, they were pretty poor in the Currie Cup, but they impressed me in the last URC. They were quite good. I found up in Ulster. How do you pronounce the open side, Brendan? Tazaki?
Vincent Chichuka.
Yeah, Chichuka. There you go. You were always better at me those pronunciations.
You're close, Dave. You were just about eight syllables of soft there, but
you're about 15 minutes away from Brendan not being able to pronounce it either. Don't worry.
Well, that's why I threw it in now, Brent. But no, they have Swanepoel's on the bench, and they seem to have quite an impact bench. They have a few players. Alberts is coming back as well. Best, from what I read, it's the best Lions team they could have selected. So I can't see Cardiff with a mixed squad challenging here.
Right, and let's just before we go to the conductor, just a comment. There is the Samoa against Barbarians this weekend. I haven't seen any betting on that, but I see a couple of the guys chatting about that in the live chat. Maybe we'll touch on that at the end of the program, as well as talk a little bit of sevens. But first, we've got the Lions up against Cardiff at a packed with 2,000 vaccinated fans, Ellis Park. I don't think they're going to get to the 2,000.
You have to arrive there 2 hours before the game. Aren't allowed a beer. Jeez, and I mean, there's less stringent conditions in prison, I think. But let me just wrap up this.
To be honest, I don't know if you'll get 2,000 normally.
No, well, it depends. Joburg's a pretty dangerous place. 10,000 start off with a stadium, only 2,000 make it through. So let me just wrap up. Let me just wrap this up before I start speaking underwater Swahili after a couple of beers. But no, I think I agree with Dave there. I'm massive on Lions here. I took them on the board 0.80. It is. It's not a completely weak Cardiff side. I have massive respect for Dai Young, the Cardiff coach. You've got guys like Jared Evans. I think Reese Priestland, I think, is there as well. But missing guys like Willis Halaholo, Radley Lowe, they're back in Wales. I mean, obviously they're missing a couple of key players. This is obviously the highest point there in Joburg. Sunday afternoon, the weather should be great. I think by Sunday afternoon, this will all have cleared. I think the Lions are going to play at breakneck speed. They've got guys like Rabs Maxwani, and on the other wing, they've got the new Stormers recruits, Edward van der Merwe, I mean, these guys are absolutely pace. So yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Fred Zeilinger starting at 10, but I don't mind Andrew Warner. But as for the rest of the guys, it's the strongest line side they put out, and it's a strong lines bench. I expect them to really go full tilt for 80 minutes here, and I love Tian Tonopoulos coming off the bench. He's got an absolute cannon. I think the 50-22s will be massive on Sunday. He can literally play it from his own 22, 10, his own 5 meter. He's such like a cannon. He'll drive the guys back, and I can see the lungs burning from about 55 minutes out. I'm like I said, I'm massive on lines on the board. I'd still take the minus 5.5, and your best bet's probably going to be Lions second half minus, because, like I said, there's no ways the qualifiers are going to hold it with the last 20 minutes. So I cannot see them keeping pace. And strangely enough, they've made the weird decision to base themselves in Camp Town. So I was on their social media. They're busy passing the rugby ball around Camps Bay Beach. It's like, what are you doing, mate? So what are you going to try and do? You're going to try and fly up on Saturday or Sunday morning and hope that it's not going to hit you. It's easy, and that's going to be even worse. So I don't know what the tactic is there. There's no acclimation to the altitude at all. So they're going to try and think, well, we're going to get tired, etc. But for me, it feels like they're not going to give a stuff about this game if they haven't even bothered to base themselves in Joburg or the Halffold to try and at least acclimate to the conditions. So that's big for me. And like I said, the guys training on the beach. I think some of these games must be taken into consideration. That I don't know how much I care about it, and this is one of them. So that's why I'm massive on the lines here.
Right, big on the lines. I know Thoughts on Sports on the Good for the Game forum said he took the 2.5 in it, and he's saying he'll still jump on the minus 4.5 if he wasn't already on. And I see Sunbet do have minus 4.5 there. But anyway, we're pushing through probably into the last 20 minutes of the show. We're moving on to Gallagher Premiership. I'm going to stay with the conductor there and conductor the first game. This is check. Is it Friday night or is it Saturday? Yeah, it looks like it's Friday night, 9:45. It's a Bristol up against the Saints, and here I've got a handicap of the Bristol Bears minus 3.5.
Yeah, Brent, I think it's going to be tough. Like, most of the Gallagher games are tomorrow nights. I think it's going to be cooler conditions in the UK this weekend. So I think we can start heading into that winter conditions for the Gallagher. It's a tough game. Bristol Bears haven't been at their best of late. They've brought back a couple of players, but Northampton have been in very, very good form. I think the line was at about 7.5. I think it's dropped about 3.5. So what line did you say there, Brent?
Yeah, 3.5. 3.5.
Yeah, I probably would have liked Saints on a bigger plus. I've seen the history between Saints and the Bears tend to be very tight. 5 of the last 6 have been within one score. So probably what I'd do is I'd hop over to Sunbet and then take either team by 7 just over evens. And that to me would probably be a nice bet. You've got Bristol Bears at home, not the best team, but also got guys like Dan Bigg on the other side. Courtney Law's good Northampton team. So if Northampton do win, I don't think it'll be by heaps. So it'd probably be either team by 7 to me is a good bet there.
Yeah, that's actually quite a nice bet. I took it last week in Wales against Australia with quite a bit of success there. Dave, 3.5. Were you one of the early backers of the plus there, forcing the handicap down?
I wasn't. I stayed away from this game. Bristol, they be my team in England. Ever since Ian Madigan went over to Bristol, I took a good interest in following them. But this season hasn't been their best. But you don't become a bad team overnight. Bristol's big problem is their reliance on Semi Radradra. Like, I think they win 70% of their games when he plays, and he's out. Obviously, he got the injury at the sevens in the Olympics, but Ashton Gate Friday night, it'll be packed. There's great atmosphere, but you have to say Saints have been really humming this season. The coach named Chris Boyd, I had question marks over him last season. Saints were looking really poor and taking a few heavy beatings, but he's really turned it around. So credit where credit's due. At a push, I'd be looking at Saints 1-12 margin. I think they have the wrong favorite here. I hate to say it as a Bristol fan, but looking at the lineups there, Augustus at number 8 for the Saints, the the other ex-Lions winger as well. His name skips me for a second.
Skosan.
Yeah, Skosan. See, there you are, pronunciations again. That's why I have you here. Making up for my mistakes. But yeah, no, I think it'll be a really good game. Be interested to see. Have you seen a points line yet, Brent?
Not on this game. I see there are a lot of games on the Friday night, but I've only got the points line on the Bath Exeter game. I don't have a points line on this one. That's not to say maybe with some of the guys in the live chat might have seen it, but I haven't, unfortunately.
Who's Wayne Barnes reffing this week, Brent?
Sorry, I think it's Falcons versus Warriors.
Okay. Yeah. We might actually go the overs in that game then.
Well, that's the next game I'm going to lead you into, Dave.
Yeah. Like, listen, really, really shrewd appointment this week in 6 ways. Worcester have appointed Steve Diamond. He was the old Sale Sharks coach, and he's a real nuggety. He reminds me a bit of a Roy Keane type of guy. Doesn't take any shit. I think that's only going to do wonders for Worcester. I've been bitten a few times back in Worcester on points earlier in the season, but I see they have some of their starting internationals back. They've got like Garvey and Kitchener in the pack. Newcastle haven't really set the world alight. Dean Richards has done a decent job up there in a limited budget. The fact you just said that Wayne Barnes is a whistle, I'd actually be interested to know what the points line is, because that might be the play in this game. That the cap is at about, last time I looked at it, was like 10.5 or 11 over here. I'd definitely be on the plus here. I think it's a choice game. They're 2 teams down near the bottom of the league, and you're getting the 10-point start. Okay, you've got home fans, but I think the Warriors are the bet here with the plus.
Well, I haven't heard anyone so confident on the Warriors since Brendan O'Connell called them not that long ago, and he was actually quite successful, if I recall. Brendan, you agreeing with Dave here? You look a little bit, you look worried. Either your beer's running out, or you may think Dave's on the wrong track.
Probably both. No, I just had a quick squiz at the points line. I hope it's not the beers talking, but the points line comes out at 38.5 for the Newcastle game, and that seems very low. Apparently it is going to be windy tomorrow in Newcastle. It's going to be freezing. But for Newcastle, that sounds very low.
Artificial pitch as well.
Yeah, that just seems very low. I'll have to do some digging on that, but I'm here at 38.5, and that just seems too low for me.
Where did you see it, Brendan? I mean, I'm assuming you didn't just picture it hovering in front of you there. You must have seen it on the website or something.
It was on the back of the beer bottle.
Yeah.
So where I get my best advice, Dave. Just let me be, please. No, it's I found it now. It's 38.5. That's really low for me. So I'd probably look at it over there with Wayne Barnes. I was going to say the games between Newcastle and Worcester do tend to be tight. I probably would look at the Worcester plus. Newcastle is a very tough place to play. It's going to be like I said, it's going to be freezing tomorrow. There is going to be wind. It's not a nice place to play. Not a nice place to play, but Newcastle struggle to beat the big handicaps. They've only lost, I think, one other last 6 games at home. But I'd probably look at the plus there. But this 38.5 has caught my attention. I'll look again. If the conditions aren't too bad, I'll probably take a quick overs there.
Yeah.
I must admit, just listening to you speak there, I'm going to be scanning around for points as soon as I can on that one as well. Let's stay with you. And one game I do have a points line on, conductor, is Bath up against Exeter Chiefs. We've got Bath here, underdogs plus 9.5, and we've got a points line of 44.5.
Brent, I won't be touching this game. Exeter have got a very good side. From what I saw today, Jack Noel, Stuart Hogg, Dave Ewers is back with him in the loose. He's absolute talisman for them. Sam Simmons, Bath can leak tries. I mean, we saw it against the Saracens team. They leaked tries so badly. But this is a Friday night game at the Rec. It's going to be freezing cold. This is a classic underground. I'll be staying well clear of this game. Absolutely. I wouldn't touch the Bath plus. They've openly said they're looking for a defense coach because they're just shifting so many points at the moment. They're just literally they're catching less than anybody else. So I'm probably steering well clear away from this. It won't be televised on Super Sports. So it actually is. Sorry, this is one game.
I think that's the one I got the points on.
So I was going to say clear from it, but I might get involved now that it's on TV. But
you're certainly going to go from not wanting a bet to flipping constantly anything. Eh?
But I don't like this game at all. There's just too many variations for me.
Just interesting what you spoke about the weather there. And over the years, I mean, I'm getting more and more into the European rugby. But a few years ago, the internationals would end, and I would bet just for the sake of it, and I'd start betting on the Gallagher Premiership before it became even the product that it is today, if I can say that. And I always underestimated the bloody weather, and I'd see these points lines of 38.5 and 40.5, and I would climb in. And I remember having a terrible December the one time, lost a fortune. So I'll be treading carefully on those. But what have you got for us here, Dave?
Yeah, like Exeter have picked a monster back row. Like you've got Sam Simmons coming back from England duty, you've got Kirsten's coming back, and you've got Big Dave Ewers. That's a big back row up against Miles Reid and Underhill. Be a really tight battle up front. The Wreck, Bath, fantastic place to visit. Some great history and some great pubs and restaurants, but the pitch just turns to absolute muck. Literally, exactly what Brendan says. It's sort of lined up for an unders 44.5. If you look at the law changes, the Exeter used to be absolutely lethal when they got that 5-yard line out. Yandel or Cowan-Dickey throws in, they get to the back, they get a try. But now with the new dropout from the goal line law, they don't seem to be the same force with the law changes. It's the unders for me. Bath are so unreliable. Stuart Hooper, he's lucky still to be in a job. They're shipping so many points. Exeter will win, but I'd probably stick to the unders.
We'll stick with you there, Dave. Wasps -3.5 against Gloucester.
Wasps against Gloucester. Gloucester have improved over the last couple of weeks. They've got Johnny May come back from England. That Wasps out half, Umanga, he seems to be fantastic when it's 24 degrees and it's April or May, but he seems to go missing when it gets cold. He's a bit of a fair weather player. I'd be inclined to go with Gloucester here. I'd definitely be on the plus on this one. I haven't had a bet yet, but the Gloucester plus will going to push me.
Right, Brendan, I think you can, if you shop around, get +4.5 Gloucester. Are you with Dave on this one?
Yeah. It's not the best Gloucester side, but it's still enough talent there. Ollie Thorley, Johnny May. I do like Adam Hastings. He's a very solid, no-nonsense kind of fly to me. There's enough quality in that Gloucester pack. And I completely agree with what Dave says on Jacob Umanga. I just don't know if he's that guy. He's like, it's that old adage, hey, like, can you do it on a Monday night in Stoke? Kind of, that old mentality when it's pissing down with sleet and snow kind of jazz. So look, he's a fleet-footed lad, and he's very good. And when he's got Fekito outside him, he's decent. But this is going to require a whole lot of bag of balls with these kind of temps. I Gloucester right have got so much momentum going with them at the moment. They've been playing great rugby, so I like the Gloucester plus.
But Gloucester plus there.
Also, Brendan, if you look at like the injury crisis that Wasps have at the moment, like they have an ex-Scottish prop called Gordon Reid who retired, and he's now on their bench because they're so short of players. They brought him in a short-term contract. So a full-strength Wasps team with Launchbury in it and all the frontliners, then I'd take the minus. But now in this instance, I think Gloucester have a good opportunity, good time to get an away win.
Look, I wouldn't go ballistic on this game. The only thing that scares me a little bit, they've got guys like Alfie Barbary on the bench, and he's the one guy. He's already a phenomenal player for Wasps. I wouldn't be getting heavily involved in this game. The cap has shifted too much. If you get a bigger Wasps, if you get a bigger Gloucester plus, by all means. But it's starting to get to a bit tight lines there. It's not a game I'd put the farm on.
Well, let's move on to the next one then. This is now taking place on Saturday. So we've got a lot of games on Friday night. Then on Saturday, we've We've got Harlequins against London Irish, and here we got Quins minus 10.5, Brendan.
Yeah, Brent is also not a game I'm going to be seriously involved in. I know that Marcus Smith is not with the team. He's on holiday, so it'll probably be Tommaso Allen, the Italian international. He's probably recovered from his concussion, so he'll probably be leading at 10. Look, it's a quality Quins outfit, but London Irish are dynamite in small packages. I mean, the fact that they came back from, I think, 34-13 down against Saracens to draw 34 all, I mean, that's just a phenomenal effort by them. They've got a never say die attitude. I'll be steering well clear of this. I'd always lean towards the Harlequins and the minus, but the only concern is they do ship a lot of points. I think a shrewd bet here is, I think this game is on Saturday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it's Saturday afternoon. Let me just double check.
I think a shrewd
5
bet.
o'clock, 5 o'clock the afternoon their time, yeah.
Yeah, a shrewd bet is probably London Irish points. They do tend to actually score quite a few points, and Harlequins' defense does tend to ship. So I'd probably look at that as my main bet rather than on the minus.
Right, Dave, rubber stamping that?
Well, like the Harlequins are the comeback kings, aren't they? Like Bristol last year in the semi-finals, the last game out against Wasps, they were dead and buried, and they managed to, like Lazarus, rise from the dead. But one interesting one, I don't know what the price is. You probably get about 22-1 on a draw because, let's face it, London Irish love to draw. Like, I think they've had 3 draws this season. And I think, if memory serves me correct, they had a 25-all draw with Harlequins last season. So
Sunbet offering 30-1 the draw. That's got to be a little bit tempting.
Throw a bit of beer money on it. Throw a few pints on it. It could be an enjoyable Saturday night. But no, Harlequins without Smith, they're not the same team. They have good players outside. That's the African centre. Esterhazen is fantastic. He must be pushing Damien Delande for national honours now. You've got Lina. Marchant might come back in. Very exciting back line. I'd agree with Brendan, though, on this one. I'd probably go London Irish points. They have a very, very consistent side. Because they have such a small squad, they seem to roll out the same 22 each week that know each other inside out, and they score points. So, I'd be waiting for the line on the London Irish points.
But Dave, we'll stick with you for the final Gallagher Premiership game. And it's Saracens up against Sale. Here we got Saracens minus 10.5 point favourites at home.
Okay. Interesting one. Saracens have been phenomenal this season. They really, the year away hasn't affected them all like some of us might have thought. The Vinopolas are starting to find a bit of form again. But without Owen Farrell, they're not the same team. The backup 10, Maku Vinopolo, he's not the same. But that's his pronunciation, Brendan, isn't it? The backup 10 for
it's Vunipola. I just can't remember. They'll probably play Alex Good though at 10, I think.
You think they'll go good at 10? Lasowski plays in France now, doesn't he?
It could be actually.
Good. Yeah.
Good.
Anyway,
that's my original guess. Is good.
Yeah, well, we'll go with AJ McGinty starting. Sailor, a different unit when he hums. They have a bye next week, I believe Louis said in our group, so they can go all guns blazing at this game. I'd definitely be on the Sale plus here.
Brendan, you bring us home in the Premiership.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of the Sale plus. I think they've got a big pack. I don't think it's not going to shrink against Saracens. I think Saracens are in a very tricky position where they've lost Jamie George to a big injury. They've lost Owen Farrell to a big injury. I very much doubt Mario Toje will be playing. He's played a lot of minutes. Then you must play. Then I think guys like big Nick Tompkins might be back. Malins might be back. Billy Vunipola is injured, if I'm not mistaken. Mako is not the kind. It's not the guy he used to be to me. He doesn't scare me at all. Where Sale are going to come with a really big bruises. I love that Sale plus there. Saracens have a lot of rugby ahead of them. They're going to be chopping and changing. They're not playing the Champions Cup. They're only playing Challenge Cup. So they might just play their best side here and rotate and challenge. But a lot of their players have played a lot of minutes for England. So it's going to be it's a difficult balancing act for Mark McCall. But nevertheless, I'd like Sale there. I think London Irish exposed the fragility of Saracens' side. They can be deadly lethal, but they can also be quite arrogant and make bad errors at times.
Oh, well, let's move on to the Dubai Sevens. We'll have a bit of a chat on that. I'm going to just bring up some of the betting here we can go through. So I've got Sunbet open here at the moment, and I see some of the boys in the live chat are chatting about the Sevens. There's quite a lot of excitement building. I must say I almost missed this one this week, and I must actually start the thread on the Good for the Game forum. Guys can post their bets there if they want. There is a link to the rugby thread down below. But Brendan, let's start with you. Run through those games just quickly. Anything catch your eye?
Brent, my two biggest fancies so far is Argentina on the minus. So you can get minus 9.5 against Spain. Obviously, Argentina, who finished second in the Olympics. I mean, guys like Moneta, fantastic players. They've got a really, really good side together. So I like them. I like Argentina minus 9.5. And I very much like Australia minus 13.5. Canada have got a weak side. Missing guys like Hiroshima, not Hiroshima. That's a whole different event completely. It's their playmaker. It's just Nathan. I'm going to say Hiroshima. Nathan.
I should have
Hirayama.
started with the Sevens.
That's it. Nathan Hirayama. Sorry. It didn't occur in 1945. He wasn't born in 1940. Nathan Hirayama. I do enjoy. I think Aussie's also missing a couple of guys, but I think they've got enough experience to put it away there. The Japan plus looks a bit big to me. At GB, missing guys like Dan Norton, Alex Mitchell. It seems like their side is mostly comprised of the Scottish and Welsh guys. Not too many English guys there. Ireland missing Jordan Conroy, who's the out-and-out gas man. So I'm not too sure where their points are going to come from. If the guys do want to look at something, I think going unders on Ireland's points is not a bad bet. I just don't know where they're going to score their points from. Because he, like I said, they just give the ball to that guy and he sprints away. So I don't know where it's going to come from. USA Kenya, I think the guy in the group did bring it over. Kenya points, I think it's 13.5, which looks to me a phenomenal bet. It's a strong USA side, but Kenya have been playing great rugby, and they do tend to score points. So I think that 13.5 points for Kenya is a cracking bet. If you can shift it down a bit, Brent, I just want to see the other game. And Fiji, France. I think the France points. I think 13.5 as well. I think you actually get 11.5, which is not bad either. It seems to be a few inexperienced guys in the in the Fijian side, and there's been a few disruptions to their team. France not a terrible side, so I actually do fancy them to sneak a couple of points there. So I do like the France overs. But as Dean Adams has come on and said now, the women's is where I feed. I love the women's sevens. When the goals get going, they just tend to score heaps of tries, and the defense tends to be very, very lackadaisical and quite leaky. So you can cover big handicaps with the goals there. So my start time is 6:30 tomorrow morning. I'm like I said, like a fat kid on Christmas.
Right, I see there is some handicaps. I couldn't find any on Sunbet there, but some handicaps that are out already for the ladies. And yeah, so plenty for Sevens fans. Interestingly, you mentioned that Japan handicap being quite big, because I see Sean Nicholas actually suggesting, and look, to be fair, the line has moved. He said Great Britain on the minus 19.5 there. He was pretty confident on that one. Dave, are you getting involved in the Sevens? I must say, I do get involved. I follow the boys, but I'm more of an 80-minute rugby man. I think maybe I'm old school. What about you?
Yeah, I'll be looking at the lads in the group and seeing what they're doing. I don't know enough about it to pass on an expert opinion here. But as Brendan said, Ireland without Jordan Conroy is like a gin without tonic or tennis without tennis balls. They ain't gonna work. They ain't gonna work. But yeah, I'll get up and I'll watch a bit of it maybe before work and keep an eye on it. But no, it won't be my main point of my weekend, Brent.
Right, well, that brings us to the end of the show. Thanks, everyone. It's been an absolute marathon with so many games to talk about, but so many good bets. I'm really going to battle, I think, to get in the newsletter best bet, and I certainly won't have any trouble putting together an accumulator. So if you haven't got on board yet, there's a link down below the show that you're watching now, and you can sign up for our newsletter. We're on quite a nice run. I think we're going for our 4th or 5th winner in a row as well. So let's hope we can come right tomorrow. But time now to get into the best bets of the boys. And yeah, I suppose I can unshare the 7 screen there. And let's start with you, Dave, your best bets of the weekend.
Hopefully they're not the same as Brendan, but there's a serious South African theme to mine. My best bet is the Lions -2. Placed it earlier in the week. Very, very confident, all 5 units. I also like.
Would you still take the 4.5 if your money wasn't down yet?
Yeah. I think they're going to blitz them. Also like the Stormers -21. It's now to -23. I might do a Chris Rowe on it and look for alternative handicaps and take lower handicaps and bring them into a double or a treble. I think that's a good strategy as well.
Just Shark Brain is saying anything on the Samoa Barbarians game. Have you seen any betting on that yet, Dave?
No, it's not out. We were chatting earlier on. There's no markets out yet.
So I know we often those Barbarian games are known as high-scoring affairs, and I got a feeling this one will be. But there's been an odd Barbarians game over the years that's actually ended up being like a proper contest where the guys have actually played, to beat each other. And I'll never forget Brendan O'Connell, who's been on the show a few times, and him and I have known each other for years. One year we were high on shirt numbers in one of these Barbarian games. It was like halftime. It was like 5-5 or something. It was absolute disaster. We got absolutely killed. But on that sad note, let's go to Brendan for his best bets.
Yeah, Brent, as Dave says, we've tried to obviously look for the betting for the Barbarians game. We haven't found anything. But the one guy pointed out that the scrum half for Samoa, I think he's 38 years old and he plays French 5th Division rugby. So
fifth division.
Yeah. Like literally, I was unlucky not to get a call up for that game. If
Brendan, you don't look very Samoan though.
Funny enough, my grandmother was actually born.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I was waiting for that. Yeah. The granny rule.
Yeah. Suddenly, you're gonna have a lot of South Africans who are actually born in Japan. I think the next 12 months. So with these new eligibility rules. But best bet for me, like I said, I'm not gonna. I always like to bet on bets where I think the focus will be actually off the game, and I think Zebra are going to be more focused on actually enjoying some nice weather in Cape Town and Camps Bay, and getting their tans right with the nice betties there, the blonde betties, and forgetting about the actual.
Hoping to see a few dimples, eh?
Yeah, the dimples above their buttocks. They're going to be the main focus, rather than the dimples on the gilbert. So yeah, I think that I like I'd even take the -23 at that price. That's my best bet. And then second best bet would be probably the Lions. And I do like a treble of Lions on the board, Bulls on the board, and then I'd probably take an alternative handicap on the Stormers, maybe 17.5, and that should give you maybe 2-1 or more or less. I like that loss.
Excellent. Gents, thanks very much. I must say, I think I'm very much aligned with you guys going for the South African teams this week. We'll come up with a best bet tomorrow sometime. Might wait for the points lines before I send the best bet out because that is my preference. But unfortunately, probably have to wait for the South African games. Probably have to wait maybe for Friday evening to send out that best bet newsletter. Thanks to all the boys in the live chat. I can see you excited for the rugby on the weekend and the sevens as well. So enjoy that. I will start a thread on the Good for the Game forum. If anyone wants to post some tips there, we're always appreciative. But to the panel, Brendan, thanks very much, man. Good having you on the show. Great comeback. How many beers you get through?
About 3 so far, but there's more. It's more in the fridge. So the night is but a fetus.
I got to admit, when you were pouring that one, and I was really got thirsty. It was like, geez, I could sink my teeth into that. But anyway, thanks a lot, mate. Great having you back on the show.
Thank
And
you.
Dave, also yourself as well. Please do manage to get your internet sorted just before the show. Thanks to that call center somewhere in Mumbai.
Yeah, thanks. Just a big shout out to the Sunita in the Mumbai call center for Vodafone. Thank you for fixing my Vodafone tonight. And boys, I hope you have a good weekend. And here's to bashing the bookies.
Excellent. Thanks very much, everyone. Just a reminder, you can get onto our newsletter and the forum in the link down below. But join us next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters.